Do you work? Who do you work for, Michael? Because I've never met anyone in my entire life who would like, who's paying you? Who do you work for? I think a lot of people are wondering this because I've never seen anyone quite like you going after victims of sex crimes. And
in this video, watch Michael Tracey act like he's been paid off to pretend the Epstein scandal is nothing but a scam. Thankfully, he gets treated like the crank he is by the rest of the panel. Hit subscribe, let's watch this together, and I'll give my 2 cents at the end.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who, by the way, is one of the most egregious serial fabulists who's ever walked the earth. I know that's really controversial, but all the claims that she had to retract, the trail of destruction she left in her wake, empowered by people like David Boies and Bradley Edwards, who, by the way, if you want to know what the impediment is to full disclosure of the Epstein files, just look at what David Boies' colleague, Bradley Edwards, has been frantically arguing for the past several months in federal courts in the Southern District of New York about the supposed terror and nightmares that have been unleashed if we have the Epstein files released. On the one hand, they're all sloganeering about release the Epstein files. On the other hand, they don't just want to redact the, quote, victims' names. And by the way, what happened to saying alleged victim or purported victim? Virtually none of these people have actually ever been adjudicated as victims. The only criteria that's required by the DOJ to abide by what the frantic victim lawyers are demanding is mere self-identification of victimhood.
Do you believe that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor committed crimes? I mean, obviously, you represented Virginia Giuffre. She made very serious allegations of criminal behavior by him against her. Do you believe that he committed crimes?
I think that it certainly is something that justifies an investigation. What he knew and when he knew it, what he knew about her age, what he knew about the extent to which he was coerced, she was coerced, I think needs to be decided by investigators, prosecutors, and ultimately by judge or jury. He certainly engaged in terribly wrongful conduct. He clearly knew that Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell were trafficking these girls. Now, whether he knew that they were underage, whether he knew that there was force and coercion involved, that is something that is a state of mind that I think before I made a judgment on that, I'd want to see more evidence. But it's certainly something that was worth investigating. Whether statute of limitations have now passed, I think is a question. But I have been, as you know, I have been very disappointed in the authorities in the United States and in the United Kingdom for not doing this investigation in a timely way.
I had Alan Dershowitz on the show a couple of days ago, and he went to great pains. He was obviously Epstein's attorney for a long period of time. He went to great pains to try and defend Epstein's original conviction as not being a confession of being a paedophile. He said that in the end, Epstein only pled guilty to soliciting prostitution from a girl of 17 years and 10 months and a 21-year-old young woman, and said that's not a paedophile. What is your reaction to that? And is he telling the whole story there?
I don't know why Alan Dershowitz continues to try to defend what is just indefensible. He ought to take responsibility for his actions. He ought to take responsibility for what he told the British press back at the time when he was representing Epstein. I've had my own issues with him, and I really don't want to, go after him more than I already have. But I don't think it's reasonable to say that he only acted as a lawyer. He acted as a publicist, dealing with the press, telling the press incorrectly that Epstein had passed a lie detector test, which he didn't. And I think that everybody who is involved with Epstein needs to step up and take responsibility for their role. And I think the more that they deny, I think the worse it is. However they thought at the time, they now know what the facts are. And whatever justifications they thought they have, they know those justifications are false. I think that everybody ought to take responsibility for what they did and for their support, assistance of what was going on. So I think Mr. Dershowitz, like a lot of other people, would serve themselves a lot better by coming clean.
Have you ever actually listened to any of the tapes at the Palm Beach, the police in Palm Beach, the detective? Have you listened to any of the girls that they interviewed that were as young as 14?
I've listened to them all.
Yeah, and you think that they're not credible?
I've listened to it all, Tara.
You don't think that entire pyramid scheme in a high school?
Do you think Virginia Roberts Giuffre's credible? She had nothing to do with that initial Palm Beach investigation. We're talking about your former journalistic collaborator who had to recant allegations against Dershowitz, had to recant her allegations against
let her speak, please.
A Harvard professor, Stephen Kosslyn, recanted against Jean-Luc Brunel. So you defend the credibility
let her speak or I'll cut your mic.
Of your journalistic collaborator. Go ahead.
Who do you work for, Michael? Because I've never met anyone in my entire life who would who's paying you? Who do you work for? I think a lot of people are wondering this because I've never seen anyone quite like you going after victims of sex crimes and attacking them like this. So you must be being paid by someone in power who does not like these accusations that have been made against them. And I think it's fair to ask, are you being paid by any of the men who've been accused by Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm having trouble hearing right now. I wish I could respond to whatever nonsense she just blurted out.
I'm asking you if you have ever been paid by any of the men who have been accused of crimes.
But maybe somebody can
astonishing
an
astonishing coincidence that you suddenly lost your hearing when you were asked a very difficult question. And rather telling, I may say.
I heard it.
Okay, I'm not saying you didn't get cut. I'm just saying.
If he can hear you, can you ask him that question? Because he can't hear me, but maybe he can hear you asking that question.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair
Michael,
question
can you
to
hear
ask.
me?
Did you
can
just?
You hear
I
me,
can
Michael?
hear you very faintly. Did you just allege that I'm somehow implicated in the Epstein criminality, or did I mishear you?
I asked you if you were being
Tara
paid
asked
by
if you're
anyone.
Tara asked if you're being paid by anybody to smear the victims of the Epstein
rather than
scandal.
defend the merits of her journalistic output, which she can't because it's indefensible, what does she do? She tries to impugn me personally, tries to imply or
You're not
allege
what's the answer to the question?
Motive. Of course I'm not being paid by anyone. I am paid by my readers on Substack, you idiot. You just can't engage on the merits, Tara. You are a disgrace. You are going to be remembered as somebody who was integral in fomenting this moral panic and mass hysteria that's led to mass defamation like you just tried against me. You know how Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie got caught a few days ago accusing a random auto mechanic in New York and a random IT manager of having been complicit in pedophilic sex crimes? You're just following on in that tradition, which is so emblematic of how this issue has functioned in the popular mind.
I'm going to give
now
Tara
it's being weaponized politically.
Tara, let me just.
Of course, Piers.
Tara,
I resent the implication. I resent the question. I asked her straightforward questions about her own journalistic.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to Tara now.
Single aspect of it.
You don't just
Instead,
get to
she
talk
tries
ad
to do
infinitum.
her whole little defamation song and dance because she can't actually engage in an intelligent way because there's no defense to what
Tara,
she's
let
done.
me.
It is the oldest trick in the book, isn't it? When you can't attack the message, you attack the messenger. And when you can't defend your position, you suddenly pretend your earpiece is broken. What we just saw was the difference between internet contrarianism and legal reality. Michael Tracey spent the first half of this segment trying to convince you that the victims are liars and the crimes are a myth. But David Boies didn't respond with outrage, he responded with evidence. He laid out the case against Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz so clearly that Tracey had nowhere left to go. And that is why the meltdown at the end is so revealing. The moment Tara Palmeri pierced that veil of independence and asked about his financial incentives, the motive behind the madness, the performance collapsed. He didn't offer a rebuttal, he offered a rage quit. True independence welcomes scrutiny. If you are not bought and paid for, you just laugh that question off. You don't scream, "You idiot," while pretending you suddenly can't hear the word money. That is the reaction of someone who just walked into a trap. So, what do you think? Was that a convenient technical glitch, or was that the panic of a man who got exposed? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button for more. Thanks for watching.